Hi, guys. I am back after a long hiatus, just stepping away from digital technology as it is going to be the antithesis to our world very, very, very soon. Angremanyu is coming about very easily right now. Just a brief look at who Angremanyu is. They're telling us with the UN and its statue that they put up, it's called the Peace and Security Beast statue. This is what Angremanyu looks like. As you can see, it's a beast, represents a destructive force. It's also known as Ahriman. It's found in Sumerian texts and different information on the Zoroastrianism. Here we see Ahura Mazda fighting Angremanyu. Ahura Mazda represents the sun. But enough about the destructive force. Let's move on to the show.
Okay, I wanted to share this information that I came across. I have this book, The Celtic Golden Dawn, and it's a legitimate magical book, magical practice, learning the elements and all of this stuff. It ties into Hermeticism because it is based in Hermetics. I found it interesting that when I was trying to find a group, I'm a little sketchy about that group because I tried to send them an email and they have not responded, which I would think that if it was a truly active group, they would have responded right away. So I've since sort of backed away from that. But I wanted to show you something. This is what they do to subvert all of the words and terms that are beneficial, that are tied to anything, so that it scares people away from certain things, such as this magical practice. Now, look at this. I typed in Golden Dawn, and this is what popped up. Legitimate. I'm going to find a legitimate Golden Dawn group. So look at what popped up. This whole thing about these neo-Nazi group called the Golden Dawn, and it's in Greece. So this is just telling you that they're going to subvert anything that is of a benefit at any kind of information, just like ISIS. What they did with ISIS. ISIS is a moon goddess. ISIS is not something to be feared, but what did they do? They labeled the group that is part of the CIA as ISIS, and they wanted to scare people with the term. So they pushed people away from embracing the terms and looking into the deeper knowledge that is behind all of these terms. So whenever they see anything to do with this, people will go, oh my gosh, that's part of that neo-Nazi group. This is how they operate. This is their modus operandi, and they are always going to put the fear into the minds of the masses. As you can see here, this is the Grecian image here, because they're going to create these groups and then pretend like there's a radical group out here called the Golden Dawn that is now, causing chaos in the world. This is all part of the agenda. As you can see, it's an order of druids. The druids were legitimate magicians who knew the foundations of our reality and were actually practicing with the ether and their consciousness to elevate life, not to suppress it. Anything with the term light, golden dawn, and all of these things, that is going to be associated with the beneficial magic. But if you get things like skull and bones, Freemasons, I believe the Freemasons actually got infiltrated a long time ago. In the surface levels, they are operating on benevolent means and very superficial means. And it takes you a long time to move up the ranks. But in the undercurrent of that, just like the undercurrent of our government, we have the shadow government. So in Freemasonry, you have the shadow masonry. And all of these different orders that are occult and hidden and secret around the world, look at the words that they use. There are many, many, many occult orders, and they practice magic, but they do not want people to know. They've been operating in secret around the world. But now we're going to know about all of these different factions that have been using the magic of our world that's found in nature and found within your human body. They've been using it to create the world that they wish to see. And now that we're getting wise to this information, and people are actually stepping into their power by embracing this knowledge. They know that they're about to be challenged. So what do? They then create the next version for the challenge, which is the current screen that you are now watching. In order to practice these natural means and to come into your magical practice, you have to begin with yourself and actually working on your own personality. In order to obtain the highest order of wisdom, you have to be non-emotional, non-reactional. If you operate in areas of anger and frustration and corruption, you're only going to be met with even more challenges. You have to have an equalizer in your personality. You have to be the calm waters. You have to be still in your mind and in your emotional states. And this is what is needed as the foundation. It's called more reflection, less reaction. I've been looking into these things for a very long time. I've had this book for a long time. I've not really delved deep into most of these things, but they are legitimate practice of learning about your own innate capabilities and manifesting the things that you wish in your life. Now, there's going to be a lot of people out here joining this because it's already happening. People are transforming. The relegioning of the mind is coming apart, and the foundations of that are going to fall as we move forward into the future. So here's some information about the relegioning of the mind. So the Abrahamic religions are a group of religions centered around the worship of the God of Abraham, which is a false god, which is the demonic demiurge. When people refer to the Abrahamic religions, they're usually thinking of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. There are more religions such as the Baha'i faith, Yazidi, Druze, Samaritan, and Rastafari, but this article focuses on the three ones. I suggest people truly dig into the foundations of whatever faith they may be following, because faith is an empty word. When you just have faith and you don't have intention, it's a very empty process that has no foundation. What you have to do is go and look for the foundations of your reality. Where does all of this belief come from? Because it's unfounded. When you just believe something blindly, you do not have the foundations of where that information comes from. Unless you go and you find the trails of knowledge and try to go in every direction and as far back as you can go. So why is it that most people feel like their religion of the mind is the one religion to follow? Why is it that they always think that theirs is the better one over any other one? That's nothing but a play upon the ego in the minds of the masses. If you truly want to be a purveyor of knowledge, then do not seek a religion of the mind, but seek philosophy of all things, of all religions. Look at where their connecting points are. Look at the world and compare it to nature. Look at all of the things. Remain open, I say. Every person has their own path, their own beliefs. But where does the belief stand? Is it in a malleable design that works with the cosmos and the provisions of knowledge that may be presented at any moment? These are things to consider.
Okay, so I just wanted to go into this Canaanite thing just a little bit further because this is how it ties into the Abrahamic religions. So, and that, I want to try to string this together for the average person who doesn't really dig as deep as I do so that they can comprehend where I'm coming from. So instead of getting offended by what I say, I want to prove that there is a deeper root to all of this chaos and what they're doing, feeding us human flesh and also the flesh of other beings, which is part of the cannibal religion. This is where the word cannibal comes from, is Canaanite. So going into the Canaanite religion, we'll just look at two different websites here. So in the brief descriptions we have, from Wikipedia, which of course we know is, compromised, but there's other ones too. The Canaanite religion was the group of ancient Semitic religions practiced by the Canaanites living in the ancient Levant at the east of the early Bronze Age. Bronze Age was a very, very long time ago, so they're misinterpreting basically these ages. They're making you think like, when was people don't know what the Bronze Age really means anyway, but the Bronze Age was a long time ago. Through the first centuries AD. This is after death. I mean, so they're saying that the Bronze Age was not that long ago. If you're going by an actual astrotheology calendar, the Bronze Age is way over here. It begins with Sagittarius and it goes through Scorpio and Libra. So, if you're talking about the Bronze Ages, this is the real Bronze Age. And they don't want people to know. So they try to act like they are smart with all knowing and all this, and they make up stories that I don't really listen to anymore. I just put pieces together and I try to show people what the real foundations of our reality are. And if you go into this knowledge, you will have the foundations of our reality, as opposed to what they're telling us, which is always a story. Now, anyway, so a Canaanite religion was a polytheistic religion, and in some cases, monolatristic. Some gods and goddesses were absorbed into the Yahwist religion. That's Yahweh and, Jehovah, all this stuff. This is what the Yahweh is. And I'm kind of suspicious that Yahweh is El. And it says religion, the Yahwist religion of the ancient Israelites. There's no ancient Israel, as we've already kind of discussed. Notably, El is Saturn. So Yahweh is Saturn. Anyway, let's look at this brief description here. In Britannica.com is Canaanite religion, beliefs, and practices prevalent in the ancient Palestine and Syria during the second and first millennia. This is so funny how they use all these terms. Centering primarily on the deities El is Saturn, Baal is Saturn, Anath is, I don't know what Anath is, but it's probably Saturn as well. From time to time, it subverted the essential monotheism of the Israelites after they occupied Canaan, the promised land of the Old Testament. Relationship between Abrahamic and Canaanite religion. Here we go. El Elyon was a famous Canaanite deity. This is Saturn, and I'll show you in a minute. And Melchizedek is undoubtedly referring to him in verse 17. Abraham seems here to accept the blessing of Melchizedek, the priest of El Elyon, and even pays him tithing, which would be burnt flesh upon an altar. El Elyon, and possibly even the Mesopotamian gods, and that they are all a manifestation of the same God. What makes the Abrahamic religion? Let's look at this some more. Okay, this just says briefly, in Genesis 14, 17, 24, Abraham meets Melchizedek, the king of Shalem, after he defeats the kings of the east. Now get this, the kings of the east. This is during all these wars for all this religious mumbo jumbo stuff that we are still witnessing to this day. They have not stopped warring about all this religion. They want our souls, which is why they've been teaching us all of our lives to eat flesh of other beings. That makes us part of their ritual. Do you see how this has evolved? All of this. And I know people are not going to believe me. They don't really get the spiritual aspects and the implications of eating flesh. Yes, I've done it all my life, just like everyone else, because that's how we've been raised, but we did not know what it truly means. It slows your progress down of this progression that we're supposed to be doing towards the light. This is what Saturn represents: the darkness, the ignorance, the not comprehending what we're truly here for. Everything of darkness, anything of darkness and shadow is of Saturn's reign. And so after Abram returned from defeating Kedorlaomer and the king's ally with him, the king of Sodom, came out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh. And then Melchizedek, king of Shalem, brought out bread and wine. He was the priest of the God Most High, which would be Saturn. And he blessed Abram, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, El Elyon." See, El, creator of heaven and earth, and praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. The king of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself." Do you see this? It's like we've been sold. They want us. They want us tied to Saturn and to all of these occult rituals and all of these things of darkness. But, people can't see this because they're not occultists. They don't look into the deep rooted, seated history of our world and what this truly means to be here on this plane of existence and what we're doing. People are lost. They have no knowledge. They chase all of the stories that are being told to them instead of stopping in their tracks and digging into the etymology of words. Where does this come from? All these different religions, where do they come from? Where does this belief system come from? Why is everything so chaotic? Well, you can only go backwards to find the answers. And this is what I do. So, with raised hand, I have sworn an oath to the Lord. Lord, whenever you hear the word or term Lord, they are not talking about what most people think that they're talking about. Lord is Saturn, the Dark Lord, Lord of the Rings. A Lord of Light is not going to be your Lord. He's not going to be your overlord. Do you get what I'm saying? Lord is a term that is like having a ruler of the people. A light being is not going to rule over you. This is the whole point. Most High, Yahweh, El Elyon. See this? Look very, very clear at this stuff. Creator of heaven and earth, because all things come out of the shadow, out of the darkness, out of the realm of mind or spirits. Everything comes from Saturn's realm and everything goes back to Saturn's realm. The sun is the portal to the light realm, and we are here stuck in this transitional phase until we gain enough awareness and enough light inside of us to leave Saturn's domain. Some people have incarnated into a body from the heavenly light realms to assist in this awakening and to guide others to the light. I am not saying that I'm one of those beings, but I do feel like I've come from somewhere else and it is not this plane. I've been here before, but hopefully I am awakening those senses inside of me to remember how to get out, is to truly gain all this awareness, self-awareness, and to leave this plane of existence. There's got to be more than one way, but the main way is for people to awaken their soul and to become aware of their self and who they truly are, and remember to do specific things to get out of here. So I will accept nothing belonging to you, not even thread or sandals. So you'll never be able to say, "I made Abram rich." I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten, and the share that belongs to the men who went with me to Ener, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them have their share. I find this passage extremely disturbing, and I think that traditional scholars have not given these verses enough attention. El Elyon was a famous Canaanite deity, and Melchizedek is undoubtedly referring to him in verse 17. Abraham seems here to accept the blessing of Melchizedek, the priest of El Elyon, and even pays him tithings. The tithings are giving him what he wants. And this is usually with El, anything to do with Saturn, is a burnt offering. This is it right here. In odorem suavitatis. This is the burnt offering of Saturn. Oh, sweet savor. Here's some of Saturn's attributes. Saturn takes away, banishing, binding, time, cycles, limitations, obstacles, boundaries. No. strict discipline, karma, disillusion, decomposition, death, color is black, father, authority, the boss, cold, serious, patience, structure, organization, cycles, the circle, physical structure, limitations, obstacle, boundaries, time, limit of physical binding, dissolution, decomposition, death by natural cause. Decomposition would be what's happening with the world right now. The cycles, it's the seventh planet. 7 equals completion. God created in 7 days. 7 days equals 1 week, etc. You will see many things tied to Saturn, including in the Rugrats and other movies. Very important to be aware of what Saturn truly represents, because they're not telling you with NASA's lies, or Nasha, the deceiver. So Abraham identifies El Elyon with Yahweh. Did Abraham forsake the gods of his homeland in Mesopotamia only to embrace the brutish gods of Canaan? Granted that Abraham was not a monotheist and was probably not as harsh with polytheism as the Mosaic religion was, but why would Abraham identify his own deity, Yahweh or El Shaddai, with a foreign Canaanite deity? Furthermore, if Abraham believed that there isn't much of a difference between Yahweh and El Elyon, and possibly even Mesopotamian gods, and that they are all a manifestation of the same God, what makes the Abrahamic religion any different from the ancient Near Eastern religions, and what's so unique about it? And if there's nothing unique about the Abrahamic religion, then why would Moses even identify his own religion with that of the patriarchs, as he constantly identifies Yahweh, the monotheistic God, with his ancestors and calls him the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? So it goes into what was the nature of the Abrahamic religion and how similar was it to Mosaic religion? Was it polytheistic or monotheistic? If polytheistic, what was so unique about it, and how was it different from Mesopotamian religions of his homeland? Of course, any good answer will have to take into account the identification of Yahweh with El Elyon in the Abrahamic worldview and offer some explanation. So you see, Abrahamic religion comes from the Canaanites, and then it's tied to Yahweh and El Elyon and Baal. This is why I say they've been trying to bury all of this information by changing the names and descriptions of things. Here's the 4 main tenets of the satanic mindset, just so you know: selfishness, egotism, me, 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 me. The first tenet of Satanism is the dictum that self-preservation is the highest law. Put in other words, the survival and comfort of the physical self is always a more important goal than doing what is morally right. This is supposed to be then. Live for yourself only, and only care about you and yours. If you must step on others to get what you want, then so be it. For this is a dog-eat-dog world. The tenet that clearly defines the overarching worldview of Satanism is perpetual me, me, me thinking. Would you agree or disagree that the vast majority of individuals in our society subscribe to such a worldview? Yes, because in this country, they divided us and subverted our minds on every level and made us hate each other and despise each other and to attack each other. They created a demonic world in the USA, and they've taken over our country. Love is the only thing to fight this great evil. Here's tenet number 2, moral relativism. Moral relativism is the ideology that there is no objective difference between right behavior and wrong behavior, so human beings may arbitrarily create or decide right or wrong for themselves based upon their own whims and preferences. In other words, that which we consider right for ourselves is what is right, and that which we consider wrong for ourselves is what is wrong, since according to the inherent and objective laws of morality, the aggregate amount of morality present in the lives of the people of any given society is directly proportional to the amount of freedom in that society. True freedom can never exist in a society that embraces moral relativism. Would you agree or disagree that the vast majority of individuals in our society subscribe to the ideology of moral relativism? Number 3, social Darwinism. Social Darwinism is the extension of the theory of Darwinian macrobiological evolution into human society. The proponents of Darwinian macrobiological evolution postulate the notion of the survival of the fittest animals, meaning that animals who are the most dominant will rule their social strata. Applied to the human domain, this theory puts forward the notions that it is the natural order and even desirable for human society to be ruled by the most dominating and vicious humans, and 2, that such human genes are the reason they acquired and maintain their positions of power. Do you agree or disagree? Number 4 is eugenics or dysgenics. The word eugenics is derived from Greek adjective meaning well-born, which is in turn derived from the Greek adjective meaning good, adjective eu meaning good, and the Greek noun yevos meaning race or stock. Eugenics is a social ideology advocating the promotion of higher rates of sexual reproduction for people with traits and characteristics desired by its proponents, and reduced rates of sexual reproduction and sterilization for those with undesired traits and characteristics. This tenet describes the ideology of Satanism taken to its ultimate conclusion. It goes something like this: since man is God and he gets to make up what is right and wrong, and since it's simply the natural order for most ruthless and of the humans whose genes are the fittest to rule the rest of the human herd, then that elite class of human beings in the highest positions of power in the world have every right to decide who is allowed to live and procreate and who must die. And those are the 4 main tenets of the satanic mindset. Here's another reference to Saturn. Saturn is also Allfather, or who is also Odin, which is interesting. Allfather may refer to Allfather, or Alfr, a name of Odin, a central god in Germanic paganism, the Dagda, known as Allfather, an important god in Irish mythology. See also God the Father, King of the Gods, Creator Deity, Sky Father, El Deity, Zeus, Jupiter mythology. This is the symbol for Om, as you can see, is very similar. It is also the symbol for death. Saturn's symbol is this Om symbol because El is electricity. He's the god of electricity. This is also the symbol for death, as Saturn represents the metal lead, which is poisonous. This is just an interesting factoid. Meta, Facebook's new name ridiculed by Hebrew speakers. In Hebrew, meta means dead, just so you know. Meta in American English means beyond, but in Hebrew, it means dead. Jewish community will ridicule this name for years to come. Okay. Here is El. They're saying that El over here on Wikipedia means God or deity, referring to any one multiple major ancient Near Eastern deities. Now over here is the father of heaven, Saturn, his major son, Hadad, father of earth, or Jupiter, are symbolized by the bull, and both wear bull horns on their headdresses. In Canaanite mythology, El builds a desert sanctuary with his children and his 2 wives, leading speculation by whom that at one point El was a desert god. So here we see that El is also Il, or Ugaritic, Phoenician, Hebrew, Syriac, Arabic. It's a Northwest Semitic word meaning god or deity. Specific deities known as El, Al, or Il include the supreme god of the ancient Canaanite religion and the supreme god of East Semitic speakers in Mesopotamia's early dynastic period. El was a generic word for any god, as well as the special name or title of a particular god who was distinguished from other gods as being the god. El is listed at the head of many pantheons. In some Canaanite and Ugaritic sources, El played a role as father of the gods of creation, or both. El sometimes refers to a god rather than the great god El. It is frequently ambiguous as to whether El followed by another name means the great god El with a particular epithet, and whether it refers to El or Saturn or refers to another god entirely. It is usually El as the main one. It means El the king, the god Hadad. Also sounds like Godhead, doesn't it? So here we go. Look at this. The documentary hypothesis developed originally in the 1870s identifies that different authors, the Yahwist, the Elohist, and the Deuteronomist, and the priestly source were responsible for editing stories from a polytheistic religion into those of a monotheistic religion. Do you see this now? Inconsistencies that arise between monotheism and polytheism in the text are reflective of this hypothesis, and that is what's coming out right now. They're coming out with the truth that the Bible has been heavily edited, and that most of these people are not paying attention to this fact. So here we get into the seven mighty Elohim. The Elohim are inside of you, and there's seven of them. Try to educate yourselves. Don't even listen to me. Go and read, go and dig for the truth if you truly want to find it. This is what I want to do because I am so tired of being told things, and there's so many lies and so many deceptive practices because we're being so heavily influenced by Saturn right now that there's so many Decepticons out on the platform, and we're using Saturn's energy in this digital format right now, and it is going to be connected to the mind of some other being that we've never known. And quite possibly it is ruled by the spirit realm, which is where Saturn is reigning supreme in the realm of darkness. And Saturn is our ultimate father, but he is very staunch about you putting your feet on the path of spirituality to meet him, and he will challenge you throughout all of your incarnations until you start to get wise to what this world truly is. You must learn your lessons here. So we're all here to learn. And Saturn is going to challenge us in every angle and aspect. So here we go. Elohim means God or gods. It's plural. It's the plural form of Hebrew word Eloah. And it appears in the Old Testament of the Bible around 2,500 times. Hierarchy of heaven. In the hierarchy of heaven, the seven mighty Elohim, along with the cosmic beings, carry the highest vibration of light that we as humans can comprehend. This is the seven rays of color. It is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then purple, and Saturn has the highest or crown color, and I believe it's either a higher form of purple or some sort of magenta. I'm not real sure on that one, but Saturn is black. His color is black, so it's going to be up at the crown. Now, there are seven spirits of God named in the Bible's book of Revelation, and the morning stars that sang together. Morning stars, get this. This is where Lucifer comes in. Lucifer morning star is Venus. Venus is the heart mentioned in the book of Job. Builders of form, the Elohim and their feminine counterparts. So this is the Elohim, and then we have Venus and the moon. Venus is the heart, and the throat chakra is the moon or mood or mouth that we use to express our mood for our minds. And this means they are responsible for the creation of things on the earth, the transforming of energy into matter or mother, mater. This is what this is. The first verse of the Bible is about these powerful beings. In the beginning, the gods, not just one God, gods created the heavens and the earth. Here, God has been translated from Elohim. Remember, this is plural. The four hierarchs of the elements serve directly under the Elohim. The Elohim create, and the elementals nurture and protect those creations in the four elements of fire, air, water, and earth. If you learn about the four elements, then you will know that it's tied with what they call the yin and yang. The yin and yang is the light and the shadow aspect of our world. And it's the duality that we exist in all levels of our life. Holy Trinity. And the Holy Trinity, these seven beings, along with the elementals, represent the Father, the Creator, and the blue ray of God. Now, I don't know what they're talking about with blue ray of God, but it must be from the waters, because look up at the sky and it's blue, right? So there's waters above and waters below. The seven archangels, the archangels is what they're saying. These are arcs. Arc is also electricity. Electricity. And the angles, this should be actually be respelled because the spelling is what casts spells on our minds. This L belongs over here behind this G, because it's the angles that create our physical presence as well as our characteristics when we're born. Note that when you look into your natal chart, that there will be specific angles of the celestial alignments, and the only ones that truly matter are the seven. The seven are Mars, Jupiter, the sun. The sun is going to be the most important because that is going to be what you truly came here to imbibe, the main part of your characteristic. And then there's Venus, the moon, Mercury, and Saturn. Those are the only ones that matter. So there's Neptune and all these other ones. Those things don't matter. So the seven archangels with all of the angelic hosts represent the love of God as the Holy Spirit, which is the pink ray. And I don't know where the pink ray resides in your chakra, but because that would be closer to the root, because pink is a stem from red. Red combined with white light or white color makes pink. The seven chohans of the rays, I don't know what that is, and all the ascended masters, these are people that have already been where we are. When you're talking about any kind of ascended master, they have already had their time in this reality. They came long before us, and they have ascended into the heavenly light realms or the upper planes of existence that we cannot see because they're out of our light spectrum now. All of us are made with this light and the shadow. And right now we're in the lower aspects of the shadow realm, and we've got to try to ascend with our consciousness and with love to go up into the planes where the rest of the people won't be able to see us. And that's where they are. So this represents the wisdom of God through the sun. Think of this as S-U-N because O, in the way the sun is spelled for the sun in the sky, it is a lazy O. The U became a lazy O, and it's synonymous with this word. And the sun is the yellow ray or the golden light or the gold that we are supposed to be polishing our stone. Our stone is this physical body because a stone is made of clay. We are the clay from the earth, and we have to polish our stone to become the golden light to the sun. This is what Egypt was trying to talk about in their hieroglyphs when they depict the sun, and they were all about the sun. They were trying to teach people how to walk the path to the light and to ascend in their consciousness and to ascend their soul away from this dense reality so that we can do higher work in higher planes of existence. Each of these seven pairs of twin flames specializes in manifesting the aspects of God in one of the seven rays. They all have retreats on the etheric level that we can attend while our body sleeps at night. So when you intone the sacred sound Elohim, you're contacting their enormous power and causing it to be stepped down for use in the physical level. This is what our voice can do. We can summon the powers of the seven rays by intoning whatever particular sound frequency is tied to each of them. And we can bring that power into our physical body. This is why I say the chanting and the toning over the waters in the cathedrals was the most important thing
that we could be doing on the physical plane to connect with the higher realms through the use of the four elements and the waters. And that's why I say, they say it right here with the elements. Very, very important things right here to connect with the spiritual realm into the physical realm. This is pure knowledge that we need to grasp and to chew on, because it's all connected. Everything in this existence is connected. But right now, because of the chaos and the calamity that's being caused everywhere in the minds of the masses, they cannot see. They cannot see why they're truly here, what their true purpose is, how they're co-creating the chaos in the world with those who would deconstruct everything, because they're using Saturn's energy, and people are being influenced by Saturn's energy by being in the dark with their minds. For whatever reason, some of us out here, we've actually awakened in this moment to be the ones to ground the energy back to the earth and to all things of nature, because we have to hold on to that energy. We cannot lose this aspect in this world. And right now, it's so important to hold on to things in nature as we get to see it destroyed from man's creation. When man wants to try to be God and play God in this world, but it's the wrong type of God. It's not a loving and generous God. It's this dark, deceptive, with material goods and metals and covering up nature and trying to create life from dead things. It just doesn't make any sense. But that's just what we have to experience right now. We have to witness this for some reason. It's part of our spiritual evolution for the soul, to see if you want to play God in this manner or you want to play God with the lovely aspects of creating the true animus in life forms that can be sustainable. But it's all just experiential.
Here is the unveiling the mystery of the Bible's oldest gods, Baal and Dagon. They're talking about a demon god, not a heavenly God that most people think. Here we go. In Bible Hub, Strong's Hebrew, a covenant, berith, a covenant original word. And of course, it's going to be in Hebrew, which we need to start learning the Hebrew language, basically, because this is our spirit speech that we're supposed to be using to create with the ether, to make beautiful harmonic language and frequency from our mouth. And there could be a thing where they're actually speaking it backwards or doing something, in public, while they've held the true knowledge of it away from the population. So here's the berith. Okay, phonetic spelling. Berith. Definition: a covenant. NAS exhaustive concordance word or origin from an unused word. Definition: a covenant. NASB translation: allied, allies, covenant, covenants. El Berith, a league, a treaty. The relationship implied by the term Berit is the relationship between a lord and his servants. In Hebrew, a Berit or Berith, because this T is going to be pronounced TH, is a promise that is made unilaterally by a lord to his servants that he will protect and provide for those servants. What do? They serve Beelzebub. Watch this. The promise is not required by law nor forced on the Lord by his servants. It's entirely voluntary. Now, look at this. When you go and look up Berith, here it is: Beelzebub, Old English, Beelzebub, Philistine god worshipped at Ekron, from Latin, used in Vulgate, for New Testament Greek Beelzebub, from Hebrews Baal Zebub, Lord of the Flies, from Baal, Lord. See, Baal, the deity is said to have been worshipped as having the power to drive away troublesome flies. It's basically a term that they use. We are the troublesome flies, right? By later Christian writers, it was often taken as another name for Satan, though Milton made him one of the fallen angels. Baal being literally a title. It was applied by the Hebrews to neighboring divinities based on their attributes. Other examples include Baal Berith, the covenant Lord, the one that you make an agreement with, the one that you covet and also make this contract with, and he will protect you. God of the Shechemites, Baal Peor, Lord of the opening, a god of Moab and Midian. Important to know this stuff. So here we go. Covenant, mutual compact, to do or not do something, a contract. From Old French covenant, a agreement, pact, a promise, originally present participle of convenir, agree, meet, from Latin convenir, come together, unite, be suitable, agree, come together, to come, from an affixed form of pyru, gua, to go. In law, a promise made by a deed applied in scripture to God's arrangements with man is a translation of Latin testimonium, meaning solemn agreement between members of a church. Remember what church means, kirk. Then we go back over here to the oldest gods, which is Baal and Dagon. Now back over here to Berith. Definition, a covenant. So who is Baal Peor? Baal Peor was a local deity worshipped by the Moabites. When the Israelites, following Moses to the promised land, were in the vicinity of Peor, some of them fell into idolatry and worshipped Baal Peor. As a result of their sin is the moon, the men of Israel were judged by God. There was no ancient Israel. That's Isis, Ra, and El. El being Satan or Saturn. Ra is the sun. Isis is the moon. The story of Baal Peor starts when Balak, the king of the Moabites, hired Balaam, prophet for hire, to curse Israel. Balak had seen the progress and might of Israel and was trying to do something that would stop them. Balaam took the money, but was unable to curse Israel because the Lord would not allow him to do so. The Lord being Satan, which is Saturn's energy. They've already employed this contract, this berith, with Saturn. Balaam then met with the king of Moab and went through the motions of receiving a word from God each time, 7 times total, because 7 is the number of planets that they worship, that they use the magic of. He ended up blessing Israel instead of cursing them. At the time of the third oracle, Balaam and Balak were observing the Israelite camp from a place called Peor. By the end of the 7th try, Balak finally got the message that Balaam would not curse Israel for him. We find the women of Midian began to seduce the men of Israel to sexual sin. Sin is the moon again, and to sacrifice their gods. Since gods of the pagans were often fertility gods, the worship often involved sexual acts. The incident is recorded in Numbers. While Israel was staying in Shittim, the men began to indulge in sexual immorality with Midianite women who invited them to the sacrifices of their gods. The people ate the sacrificial meal and bowed down before these gods. They were not supposed to eat sacrifices. You're not supposed to eat the flesh of other beings. This is a demonic act. So what has probably happened is the women were subverted somehow by Baal, by the serpent. Remember the serpent in the garden? This is what they're talking about. The serpent in the garden would be the Garden of Eden. And then it has, obviously, maybe they were into witchcraft or something, and they actually got demonically possessed by the serpent. This is another thing, another take on this. So Israel yoked themselves to the Baal of Peor, and the Lord's anger burned against them. As a judgment against the Israelites' sin of the moon, God sent a plague among the people. And this can happen. So there's been this war according to the different planetary cycles and things. The women did this in advice of Balaam. It appears that since he could not curse Israel, he found another way to fulfill the wishes of Balak, who was paying him. Balaam knew that if the Israelite men could be seduced in idol worship, the God himself would curse them. The word Peor simply means opening, and is the name of the place, a mountain or a spot on a mountain from which Balak and Balaam observed the camp of Israel. An opening could be also a portal. It's also probably a planetary alignment, because this is what you do when you do high magic. The meaning of the word may or may not be significant to the naming of the place. And the word Baal simply is the word for Lord or master or ruler. Baal came from a semi-technical name for the gods of the Canaanites. Here we are. Canaanites are cannibals. And the Canaanites are, of course, the 3 religions that we've already discussed. There's not just one god named Baal, but there are many Baals, Canaanite lords. And so they don't necessarily use Baal Peor as if it was a proper name, but for a god, but use the term more as a description. The Baal of Peor, which would also be translated the Lord of Peor, Lord of the opening or portal. As we know that CERN is also a portal that they are using. They've been opening this portal for a while now, and they actually have many of these CERN devices around the world, and people just don't know about this kind of stuff. So we've got to start raising the awareness on this level. So Fjord might refer to the mountaintop from which Balaam and Balak observed Israel, or it could have something to do with the literal meaning of the word Fjord, or opening, which in the context of Canaanite worship could have a sexual or scatological connotation. Perhaps the top of the mountain was called Fjord because it was where the sexual rites took place. There's all kinds of magic when you're dealing with all of this stuff. This is all high magic combined with the lower magic of the world, which is combining the essence of the four elements along with the body practices, and also the physical placements of the body, the mudras, the asanas, different rites that you speak with your mouth. All of this stuff is employed by the use of magic. It's all frequency. It's all based in the frequency and working with the ether. So as you can see, Baal is here. Now look at this Balfour Agreement. The Balfour Agreement was actually made, the Balfour, Baal for, Baal being Lord, Baal for declaration. This is when they actually created Israel, because the Red Shield family, or the Rothschilds, went around marching around the world trying to set up what is known now as Isis, Ra, and El, Israel, the land of the chosen ones. The chosen ones who would be protected by Baal, or Satan, which is Saturn. They have been doing the high magic based on Saturn's energy. And Saturn, as we know, is the Dark Lord, the Lord of the Rings. He is the one who rules all of darkness. And if you work with Saturn's energy, you can create all kinds of interesting effects. This is what the Cult of the Black Cube book talks about. So it's very interesting that this Balfour Declaration is tied to the term Baal, 4, and the number 4. And it's probably something to do with the star alignments. There's probably 4 that you work with to make this magical practice happen. As you make this statement and this declaration, it's probably going to be imperative that you also work the magic to make it happen, not only the magic on the mind of the men. So here we go. We're going to look at the Moab. The Moabites is here. So Moab is the name of an ancient Levantine kingdom whose territory is today located in the modern state of Jordan. And as we know, there were giants in Jordan. I have actually physically been there myself. These doorways are enormous. The land is mountainous and lies alongside much of the eastern shore of the Dead Sea. The existence of the kingdom of Moab is attested by numerous archaeological findings, most notably the Mesha Stele, which describes the Moabite victory of an unnamed son of King Omri of Israel. Israel is not an ancient state. It was Palestine. And before Palestine, it was something else. As you can see, they had kingdoms. The king of the dome over our head, the firmament. They're telling us everything in words, but we do not pay attention. So the existence of the king of Moab is attested by numerous archaeological findings. The Moabite capital was Dibon. According to the Hebrew Bible, Moab was often in conflict with his Israelite neighbors to the west. That would be Palestine, because the Palestinians were probably a little bit upset that they were having their lands usurped by giants and other beings that were using black magic. The etymology of the word Moab is uncertain, and so it goes into Greek, which is from my father, and usually father is the one in heaven. Which heaven are they talking about, though? Are they talking about the heaven of darkness, which is the night sky, or are they talking about the light, which is the sun, which is the day sky? These are all very imperative to know, because if you're working with the light, you're going to be working with Lucifer. Lucifer is the light bringer, the bringer of the dawn, the star of the morning, which is Venus in the morning. In the evening, it's considered Venus evening star, which is called Vesper. Vesper is the evening star. It's the one of darkness, the bringer of darkness. It's all in the occult history of our world that most people are not looking into. The other etymologies which have been used regard as a corruption of seed of a father, and a form of to desire, thus connotating the desirable land, explains the word Moab to mean from the father. Since Ab in Hebrew and Arabic, as the rest of the Semitic languages, means father, he writes, as a result of the immodesty of Moab's name, God did not command the Israelites to refrain from inflicting pain upon the Moabites in a manner which he did with regard to the Ammonites. Fritz Hommel regards Moab as an abbreviation of Immoab. His mother is his father. These are very important things because usually what it is it's referring to the planetary bodies. All of this ties into magical practice, but the layman cannot see this because they are not initiated into the magical practice and the magical arts and all of the knowledge that is found there. It is the foundation of our world, but people do not look into this stuff. So according to the book of Yasher, Moab had 4 sons, Ed, Maon, Tarsus, and Canville, and his wife, whose name is not given, is apparently from Canaan. Very important to know that during the age of Taurus is when these Canaanites came about. They actually became cannibals because that's what you do. You eat your brother and all of the flesh if you want to sacrifice things to Satan or Shaitan or Saturn. Saturn is the purveyor of death and darkness. People do not know this, but they need to begin knowing this. This stuff is out here in the world for people to learn the actual foundations of what people are following as religioning the minds in all of these churches or kirks out here. Kirk is Kirky. Mother Kirky was a witch. She practiced pharmakia. So all of this knowledge is here for people to see, and all of the evidence is here and can be obtained if you put all of the pieces to this story together in the proper manner, because this is not being portrayed in any church or in any Jewish place. Their temples, the Islamish people, they are not talking about these things. They don't know that they're worshiping Saturn when they march around Mecca encircling that black cube that is there. It's just a reference to Saturn and bringing in the dark energy of Saturn. Saturn's influence will continue through the age of Aquarius and continue through the age of Capricorn, because these people know the foundations of our reality, but most of the laymen out here in the world do not. If you want to know more about our reality, you begin looking into the hidden things in the world. So that is all I have for you, and I will see you on the next one.